And now, to talk about our module of the week, let's turn it over to Martin. Anderson Klutz, a senior solutions engineer at Acquia and a maintainer of a number of Drupal modules of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, Nick. Have you ever wanted an easy way to generate detailed release notes for your contrib projects? There's a web app for that. It's called MRN, which is short for Maintainer Release Notes or Module Release Notes. It was created in August of 2022 by today's guest, Matt Glavin, and it is actively maintained. In fact, its latest updates were earlier this year. Now, the code project is in Matt's GitHub repo at github.com/mglavin/Drupal-mrn, and it has 13 open issues currently. Now, there is no usage reporting currently built into the tool, but it is a tool that I've been using a ton lately as I get my own modules ready for Drupal 11. It is very simple to use. You just go to the web app and enter the machine name of your project and then the numbers of the releases you want it to compare. It will generate the structure for your release notes, including a spot for you to write the summary at the top. And it creates a list of contributors that links to their profiles and a list of the issues also linked to anyone who wants to read further in. Now, this was previously part of Matt's Drupal.org CLI project, and MRN is now a Lambda function on AWS, so there's nothing to download or install. I like the fact that you can choose which tags you want it to compare. So if the release is part of a branch that doesn't yet have a stable release, I'll put a comparison to the previous release in the branch at the top, and then a comparison to the current stable release below it, so people can see the full list of everything new they'll get by moving from that stable release. It's worth noting that because this works from the Git history, you need to make sure you credit everyone properly before clicking to merge an MR in the Drupal.org UI. You can give credit to other people after the fact using the checkbox, and they'll get contribution credits, but won't be included in the release notes generated by MRN. So let's talk about maintainer release notes.
Hold on. I have many questions. First, a point of clarification. This is not a Drupal module, right?
Correct. That is correct.
So listeners, I know module of the week might be a little misleading, but hey, listen, this theme's super duper useful. Second question, Matt, I guess I'm going to ask you, why isn't this a Drupal module? And could there be a Drupal module that brings this capability into the Drupal UI?
There could. So it's not a Drupal module because it used to be a Drush module, if you will. Way back, I think the first time I used it when I was at Gaggle and we were maintaining a bunch of like contrib modules or like helping with Panoply and like a few other things. And I needed to create release notes. And it was like really tedious. So there was Drush MRN, which I believe that was called module release notes. And then Drush stopped working at some point with like, or the command stopped working with modern Drush. And that was a weird period we were Drush and console. And I was doing a lot of Drupal commerce work at Commerce Guys, Nelson Taro. And then again, a lot of release notes. So I built my own Drupal.org CLI. This was like my utility belt to look at Travis CI and a few things. And I ported over that functionality because I need to make release notes. I don't really use my Drupal.org CLI tool a lot anymore. Just it hasn't fit, but like everybody kept opening issues because they liked the release notes. So then I moved it to a web app because it was just like, one, I wanted to play with Lambda. Two, you don't need to you shouldn't have to download a CLI tool to just generate the release notes. And maybe, yeah, so there. But if you wanted to, you could move this into a Drupal module. If you had like your own dashboard, let's say that you're an agency that manages a bunch of modules and built a Drupal site that tracks them in the release age, and you want to generate release notes there. It's all an API against Drupal.org's GitLab and maybe some of the issues API to just know like the title. So the code's open source. So you could just look at the two functions as PHP. So it's using Bref to run PHP in AWS and Lambda. And you could literally cut the code, paste it into like a controller for a Drupal module, and it just works. You know, it's returning JSON. So you'd have to say, don't just return JSON, maybe print some HTML or read the JSON yourself and save a node. But like you totally could plug it into anywhere. Or your Drupal module could call the Drupal-mrn endpoints because it costs like 2 cents a month to run. So you're not going to break my bank.
So I
oh,
did check. The MRN namespace is available for a Drupal module. So if any ambitious listeners are out there and wanna take it on, you too can create a Drupal module.
um, b- before I make my comments, I would just say make sure you put some usage limits on there. Before that 2 cents kind of blows up and does break the bank, you want to make sure that you're protected. But as Martin mentioned, one of the caveats is that you do need to make sure you credit everybody before you merge, because it uses the commit message to apply credit, to call people out when they worked on an issue. And you can kind of manually update the release notes if you credited somebody after. Um, if this was baked into Drupal.org, I think that they could integrate with the credits at least. Have you had any conversations with the DA about moving this into core? Because this feels like something that could just be on the infrastructure and
So
not external.
I haven't, and I haven't really pushed it. So like I haven't done any major work with it in the past 6 months. I want to do more besides like bumping dependencies, because when we move to GitLab, like GitHub, this is kind of inspired by like what GitHub also rolled out, like the new format, let's say, the new way it works, because they have it when you create a tag, you click generate release notes, and it looks at all the pull requests and generates the information, and it actually pulls out all the contributors as well from that pull request. And I'm assuming GitLab has the same features. Now, I've been following, and I think once we move to GitLab for like issues and a few things, packaging will still live on Drupal.org for reasons. And I don't know if that means we'll still have like release nodes on Drupal.org versus GitLab releases. So it's maybe that means it should go on Drupal.org then. Like if Drupal.org is still where you like publish a release to have like that be the canonical source versus just inside GitLab and its release notes, then maybe this could be something. That's where the MRN project namespace could be taken up to be the module that Drupal.org runs to generate the release notes for itself.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it also depends on how, because I think issues are going to be migrated to GitLab at some point. So it probably depends on how that works as well.
Yeah, and I know issue credits are still being worked out, and GitHub, that now when you have co-authors in the commit, I don't know if co-authored by is a new thing that Git is actually supporting, or if it's like the community at large has adopted it. But now in GitLab, if you merge a pull request and at the bottom it has co-authored by and list of usernames, they show up in the GitHub UI, kind of like how we do issue credits. So like it is cool to see that what Drupal has been pushing with issue credits is showing up elsewhere. But they're actually doing it in the Git commit. And I think there's actually an issue opened under Drupal.org ideas or somewhere for like updating our commit message template. So that way, instead of saying issue number, 5,000 usernames, then the change, the commit body has all the usernames in it, which is what I'm now seeing on other open source projects.
That makes sense.
And that would help solve that issue of forgetting to credit people, or like the release note tool having to try to extract names from a title and things like that.
Makes sense. Well, thank you, Martin. It sounds like our listeners have been doing a good job of making suggestions for Module of the Week. And if they want to continue to do that, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
We are always glad to get nominations for Module of the Week in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, but they can also reach out to me directly as ManClue on all the Drupal and social platforms as well.